part about it is they have money for assistance. They have money to give people these jobs, but half the people don't want to do right, and the other half the people who want to do right, they might not even have the opportunity to do right because they ain't got no transportation to
Well,
get
we know
there,
they have the money,
clean
right?
clothes. Like it be some people in bad situations that really want to do right, and they just don't have the opportunity. And I look at it like when you do or when you are afforded the opportunity, even if it came from a bad situation like being in the penitentiary system or something, if you have an opportunity to do right, you should be afforded that opportunity.
Welcome to the We Got Problems podcast with co-hosts Curtis G. Martin, Rhonda L. Brown, and Khalif Johnson Sr., the one and only podcast where solutions get discussed to our community's everyday troubles. Each week, you will hear mind-blowing conversations and actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become more effective. We got problems and we got solutions.
All right, you guys, welcome to the show. This is We Got Problems, a podcast where we talk solutions. I'm Curtis G. Martin, and I'm here with my co-host, Rhonda L. Brown.
Hey, everybody.
Khalif Johnson Sr.,
Hey, y'all, how y'all doing?
and Lashika Phillips.
Hey.
And today we're going to talk about 7 inmates making history. They're the first ones to earn a college degree from Yale in a prison program initiative. Hey, so a question for you guys. In what ways do education within prison systems contribute to the reform and rehabilitation of the inmates?
Well, if you can get them a whole college degree from Yale, then when they get out, they stand a good chance of getting a good job with that name behind them, because the name is what really carries the weight. You know what I mean? Your degree stands for something when you come out of that college or that university. But once you come out of there and you've done it from behind bar, that's saying a whole new stepping line right there.
So we're looking at Yale like knowing that they went to Yale, but how about just the prison systems in general?
Yeah, I think that when we look at the prison system, I think that most inmates that are there, if they were to be interviewed, and I believe that it's a part. I know definitely a part of like when they get ready to go through parole or pardon, to ask them about their education. But when you look at the statistics, most inmates, especially men, did not graduate high school. And so then to me, what that speaks to is, okay, so 9 times out of 10, that's probably why they committed the crime. Now, I'm not justifying crime, but what I'm getting at is the lack of education puts people in certain situations. And so because of that lack of education, landed them in a situation where they made some bad choices, right? And so I think having an education a part of the rehabilitation, if it's done right, I think that it can allow a person to gain skills, gain the resources that they need, so that when they are out and they're not, incarcerated anymore, they can rely on those tools. They have the education. Now they don't feel like they have to fill in the blank with a crime, right? Now they have resources. They have an out. Whereas prior to education, you don't feel like you have an out. There's no way out. It's only to do this crime, right?
Mm-hmm. So, Rhonda, do you feel that they're being rehabilitated, or are they just being removed from regular citizens?
I actually think that some of them are being rehabilitated. Just going back to with what Sheikah said with the education, most of them don't have even a high school education, so they get their GED or they can get some kind of trade. If they are willing to do that, yes, they can be rehabilitated. If they're not willing to do any of those programs or even get their GED or go on to do any kind of trade work or college courses, it is, to me, I think it'll be a revolving door, because that's all they're not willing to put forth that effort to try and change.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the current state of the rehabilitation system, I think that it can work, but I think they don't put emphasis on it. So here in California, it could be different elsewhere, but here in California, they do what's called halftime and 85% of the time, right? Like depending on what type of crime you had, or if you a repeat offender, you might have to do 85% of your time. A lot of people do half of their time, but to get that halftime or that 85% time, you have to work in the kitchen or you have to have a job within the prison system.
Mhm.
How about schooling within the prison system that'll get you through that process as well?
To have it as a mandatory thing to
Yeah,
get your
yeah,
education instead
yeah,
of having a mandatory thing to go work for this 4 cents an hour where
yeah.
you keeping the prison
Well,
system going. But that's what it
exactly.
was. I never forget when I heard a deputy up there, and he was like, I understand about releasing prisoners early, but these are some good prisoners. They do good work for us. If we let them out, who gonna do these jobs?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So look, Trash, tell me, can you discuss any potential barriers that these inmates that receive these degrees that they might have after they release, um, still holding a degree from an Ivy League school? What's some barriers that they might go through?
They gonna always go up against the barrier themselves and thinking that they're good enough. Just because they hold a degree don't mean that they feel like they're adequate. Now, if they can get over the barrier of themselves and really believe in themselves to actually go put that degree to use, then nothing to stop them. If they're gonna always have to go against the prior felon, having that type of felony on you or something like that, saying that they're in there for a felony, you'll always have that check on your little application that might hit you up. But then past that, it's just believing in themselves and not letting nobody tell them no.
Rhonda, same question. What type of barriers you think they gonna encounter, even though having a degree and probably a nice degree, right?
I think there'll still be some employers that look at it like, oh, you incarcerated. I don't care what kind of degree you got. Like, I don't know what you went to prison for, but I don't want you around. I think there'll still be a lot of them. But I also think that there is a lot of companies now that see, yes, you can, if, as long as you have it, get some sort of education while you're incarcerated, you can get gainful employment. And there's a lot of employers out here that will hire felons. And I just think that, even with the name itself behind that, I think that'll give them a little bit more of a push towards, okay, maybe I can hire them. Even though they have this felony, they've done their time, they got this degree from Yale. Let me give them a chance.
Yeah, I hope so too. But I'm just hoping that it's not nothing that, like, you know how when you go to a class and you get a certificate and then you do a class online and then it say online certificate, right? And the other
Hmm.
one say instructor led. Is it going to say incarcerated? Like, is it
Yeah.
going to be something on that degree or something on there to let them know they were incarcerated? But Lashika, same question.
Yeah, I think when I think about societal barriers, I think first thing comes to mind is actually kind of similar to what you were just saying. And I think that a barrier could be that an employer not even take the degree serious because the person received a degree from being in prison. Because I can imagine, again, thinking of society, a societal barrier. If I'm looking at a candidate and I see that they were formerly incarcerated, okay, that may not, depending on the role, that may not be an issue. Oh, okay, and I see that they received a degree from Yale. Well, let's say I also received a degree from Yale. Well, now I'm really feeling biased because I know you didn't go through what I went through at Yale, right? You were in the confines of prison wall. You didn't get to walk the halls. You didn't get to have the interaction like I did. So this is it's not worthy, right? So I think that could be a societal barrier where they would maybe feel like they have to prove themselves, like have to prove that I deserve this degree from y'all. I worked just as hard as someone who was free, going to Yale. I think that could be a huge societal barrier.
Hey, so I want to throw a couple more of those barriers out there, and y'all can jump in as needed. But how about the barrier of somebody went to San Diego State, and then now here I come with a Yale degree?
But
How
you're
would
incarcerated.
yeah, but I'm incarcerated, or or they see me with a record and know I got it from jail, but
Yeah,
I'm associated with Yale, and I got all these Yale praises and whatever else. But
yeah. You still
now
a former inmate.
they went to a junior college or something.
You still a former inmate.
Yeah.
But how would they know? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How would they know that you got the degree while you were locked up? They don't
Well,
ask you the years on your application on job application. They ask if you've been convicted of a felony. You either check yes or no. You don't have to put the dates.
So what happens though is when they decide to hire you, they look that felony up and they say, okay, so you just got out of jail. Like, when did you get this degree? Like, right? Like, cause I'm willing to hire you because of your degree and everything's going on, but
yeah,
now I have questions because you have this felony that popped up, and then now when did you have time to get a degree? Because you only been out 6 months from what this is saying. Like, how would that play a part?
ooh,
It'll get some stipulations real fast, like what they will and won't accept when it comes to a degree. That just changes the laws up, because the moment, if you have to disclose that it was done while you were incarcerated, and it's not just a flat out degree, he went to Yale, he graduated, he got all his honors, he good. If they not giving out a degree like that, and they was like, this is an incarceration degree, yeah, then it kind of put a little asterisk on it. I don't know I don't
yeah,
know if it's the same thing. Of
Hey,
yeah.
course,
hey,
you want to say you did good. Of course, you want to say you did good. You graduated from Yale while you were in prison. But if you get out, you got an asterisk right by your Yale degree.
but that's
And
kind of the same thing as the online degree or
Mhm.
incarcerated degree. You know what I'm talking about? So I like it because if they spent the time to
Yeah,
go through the stuff, I think it shouldn't be an easy degree, but they had the time to do nothing but study, walk the hallways or not. I had
yeah,
nothing but time, and I used it wisely.
yeah.
Because they
Right?
could have chose not to do anything or
Yeah,
kept up
yeah.
So
with the,
true.
the nonsense that happens in prisons. Like
Hey,
they,
Yeah,
look, I would say this. Um, do some research on the company you getting hired by. See how far back they go. Right, on some companies go back 10 years, some companies go back a lifetime, right? Like government
Mhm.
jobs probably gonna go back a lifetime, some companies 10 years, 7 years, 5 years. Know how long they got go back. If you did 20 years, it normally counts from the day you was incarcerated,
yeah,
right? So you 20 years clean, and a lot of times you don't have to say you have a felony if it's not within them 10 years. So that's
mhm.
something to look at for the people that's listening. Next question I have for you guys is, do you believe that the success of these 7 graduates can impact the future funding for different prisons or legislations to support prison education programs?
Oh, 100%. Yes. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
it,
sorry. Was that? Yes.
it should.
So
You know
how
what I
so
mean?
how what's some pros and cons to that, Lashika?
So pros and cons. So I'll start with some. I'll start with the pros. I think that I think to have more opportunities for inmates to be connected with Ivy League schools, I think that that adds a whole nother level of rehabilitation, because there's a culture, if you will, that is kind of established or just understood with Ivy League schools, right? There is without you taking a class about demeanor or being diplomatic, it's just naturally and organic a part of the curriculum or just a part of the interaction. And I think to have more inmates to have access to that type of education could really strengthen the rehabilitation process, hands down. So I would say that would be a pro. I haven't thought enough yet about a con there. I'm sure there is, but certainly can see it strengthening rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, I'm sorry, and the strengthening of rehabilitation helps to ensure that no repeat offenders.
Yeah. You know the only con I can actually think of, and to kind of go with your point is that you know, say if they had a job placement type deal, they
Okay.
would probably. I know this dude's IQ is off the charts. We're gonna steal him from normal society, and we're gonna put him in here. But all the rest of y'all gone with y'all Yale degrees, right? So that could be a con where they pick and choose who they want, and it
Mm.
might be picking and choosing because of racial divides, right? Like so.
Mm,
What
yeah.
do you think, Trash?
I look at it like this: if it's gonna get a person better, with what all of these colleges have historically taken from the benefit from slave labor, the benefit from penitentiary labor, these colleges have benefited from years, and for them to give back to some inmates to actually get a degree from them, I think that's the least they can do.
And
Like
how about
that's
even
the
benefited off of athletes, right? Like that
Mm,
just
that
put in all this money.
like this the way NCAA is not even they've been making a racket for a lot of years, and all of these institutes have made every Saturday when they go ahead and these kids go put these TV deals on, they getting paid regardless. So for them to be able to give an opportunity to somebody that deserves it, I don't say just anybody should qualify for a program and get a degree from Yale. You go out, you was doing some crooked work, now you a legal crook.
yeah.
Like, nah, like it should be some standards on that. Like everybody who is upset, you can't even really put no stipulations on that right now because who's
What
who.
what about, like we talked about earlier? What about complete high school, and then that program is there for you? Because if you can put in the work to complete high school, then you deserve a shot at this other
Mhm.
program as well.
But do you really want somebody who's already a bank robber and doing some real bad stuff with money? They be in charge of getting a Yale degree. Now they robbing you legally because they
No,
found the
no,
loophole.
I think he should be able to have a job. That's why we calling it rehabilitation. If not, we throwing him to the wolves. Like no matter what he done, we gonna rehabilitate him. Maybe I'm not giving him no job where he has the money, but I might give him a job where he can crunch the numbers.
Okay.
Exactly. Oh, I
Mm.
love that because that was they turned a real life story to a movie about that. It was a guy, he was a bank heist. So he was doing, was it Catch Me If You Can or something? And he ended up getting a job with the
Mhm.
agency. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Catch me if you can. Was that the pilot?
That's Leonardo DiCaprio. The Leonardo DiCaprio on the Catch Me
Y-
If You Can. That's a
Yeah.
different one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I could see how, so I now I can't remember who said it about, no, we got a bank robber. You don't want the bank robber to get it. But if you think about it, and going to a person who was involved with trafficking drugs, right? Um, to be able to do that successfully, that requires some skill.
Yeah.
That requires a
Yeah.
lot of skill to do it successfully, right? And in a major way.
So
So if a person is serving time, major time, right? If they were trafficking, if the charge is trafficking and not possession, like that's a huge difference, right? And so you have a person that is serving a lot of years for something like drug trafficking. Can you imagine equipping them with the right skills for entrepreneurship? So
yeah.
they that street mentality, right? That they learn all of that hustle and the work ethic, because you can't be in the game in a major way and don't have a strong work ethic.
Yeah.
Your work
Mhm.
thing. So imagine taking that person, equipping them with some Yale like resources, and then putting them back into society. Like again, assuming positive intent, right? That could be a game changer for a community, for a family, for a
Hmm.
generation, for a legacy. What?
And it's
Mhm.
being done out there. Look at Freeway Rick.
Right.
Freeway Rick is out here running businesses now. Actually running weed houses, right? Legitimately. Right? So somewhere well he taught himself to read inside the penitentiary and got
Mm,
himself out of jail, right? So we do know that it works.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Right? So Rhonda, what do you think about them continuing to open these opportunities up, or they're passing laws to where this is what should be done. Because I'm gonna tell you something. I seen some gruesome shit the other day, and they talking about it's inhumane that uh, to do lethal injection. They were saying like, oh, they got to do 3 different shots: one to stop the breathing, one to stop the something else and paralyze the muscles, then another one to go into cardiac arrest. They said that's like inhumane. They said now we got this robot that'll just snatch the head off and then beat the head, and that's legit, right? Like, so why we can't put money into because they say most prisoners come back.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think we can, like, this will help with putting money back into the system to help rehabilitate these people?
I definitely think it will. But is that what they want? Because the prison system is a business.
See, it's not about what they want, because when it came down to it, when people started getting too swole from having iron in the penitentiary, it wasn't about what they wanted. It was about what the prison guards wanted, and they took what they wanted from when they wanted to. So they can pick and choose when it's good and when it's bad. But the
Well,
problem is, or do they really want to see the people good that they're helping right
back
there?
then that was good, but they were saying the guys were stronger than the cops.
They were.
But you got healthy men though. That's what you know. So you saying you don't want healthy men, right? Putting them back into society. So that leads me kind of into my next question: how does providing higher education in prisons relate to a broader issue that's going on in the communities, of social justice and opportunity? Because if we saying that you got to commit a crime to come get you some Yale type education,
For
then what
free.
is that saying to society itself?
That these educations are too expensive, that we're trying to get our kids to get out there and get, and they're ending up in debt, and the jobs aren't really there just looking for them like they once were. Like you had IBM looking for you back in the day. They're not checking for anybody here. They getting people from overseas, and they hiring anybody and giving them a visa at will. And that's
But
just what the
that's cost of slave wages, right, so to speak. But how about like not finding ways to keep kids in school to where we get a higher graduation rate, right? Like we sending kids to I've seen it in my community where certain people get dropped off at home and certain people go to juvenile hall, right?
Mhm.
Like where do those type of divides or those type of injustice happen to where society is letting people go uneducated, but then now we got to look to educate them once they're incarcerated?
I mean, what's the? I know in some states, I actually don't know if this is federal or not, but No Child Left Behind.
Mhm.
What?
They pass them
That
along.
sounded good when they first made it, right? So when you really think about what it is, nope, come on, you going to the 5th grade, you ain't getting left back there.
Yeah,
Nope.
I think that even something like that, No Child Left Behind, that initiative, it really set some children up for failure, because they were left behind in a major way. And when you ask the question about, just looking at how, so it's the story that we're telling, that you have to get incarcerated to get access to this Yale education. It's almost like, I don't know about y'all, but during the shutdown, during I guess the height of the pandemic, what happened was in the Bay Area, it is so much homelessness in the Bay Area. I'm talking Oakland, San Francisco area. And so much so, it's just homeless people up and down major sidewalks, major street. It's just everywhere. But at the height of the pandemic, we looked up, we had shelters, tents, buildings from out of nowhere housing the homeless people. Like, wait a minute, what was all of this stuff 2 months ago, or 2 years ago, or last week? Like, so this just happened. So I think about that when you ask that question, right? I think the resources are always there. It's how are they allocated? And then not only that, who is behind the scenes making that happen or not making that happen? So I think those are some things that we have to look at, because to me it seems like the opportunity is always there, right? It's just the door is closed or access is denied, right? I hope I'm making sense, but
Yeah,
that
no,
was
definitely.
that's
Mhm.
for me.
It goes back to who we voting in the office to be in charge of these departments. It's like you got to vote the right people in the office to actually handle those type of things. So we don't have a crook in City Hall down there robbing the people when these monies are supposed to be put to get homeless vets off the street. But yet and still, you see somebody over here, they got a friend that needed a contract, and now they building a wall in a place that don't matter. But they got the contract, and their friend is driving a new truck, and it's been all kind of one hand washes the other, and you kind of turn your back on the people who really going to be affected the worst by it. So it's been a system set up like that for the longest period of time.
Yeah.
And if you have someone who really cares in there, their job is to get them out of there as quick as possible, because then they actually might start seeing the benefits of this program doing some good in the neighborhood. Now maybe one of these men get out and start a bank and now start funding felons. So now that felons can actually get them a home and start getting a car, and now we actually have felons giving people jobs now, and now they're not looked upon as such bad people, and they've recovered and they've got their life back, and they actually can go do some good in their community. They went down and they served their time respectfully. You know what I mean? And if you've done the crime and you served your time, you should be able to have an opportunity to utilize yourself to be the best version of yourself. And I think that's what this program is basically about, is getting the men to a point where they can have some pride in themselves again.
Mhm.
And they can actually go out there with their head held high and go accomplish some of the goals that they set for themselves when they said that they weren't going to go back anymore. Because they all make that promise to themselves that they're not going back. But usually when they find themselves with no more options, they go resort back to
Yeah,
what they know. You know what I mean?
circumstances.
Yeah. So when you find yourself where you're not resorting back to what you know, you're focusing in on what you've learned and you're applying that. You taking those tools, then you can actually do something about it. You know what I mean? You can't do nothing about it till you have something in your head that's going to teach you which way to move. Because if don't nobody know which way to go, it's still the blind leading the blind.
Well, I'm gonna take it back to trash. I told you we always go to both sides, right? Like we're talking adults right now because that's usually when the adults get in jail, and then but even with the babies, right? So a lot of these babies are not staying in school. We need programs to help keep them in school, right? We need parents to be involved, and it's so many ways we can keep stuff. Like you can't just have a prison program and hoping everything changes, because no, now you still got people going to prison to get education and come back, right? So how can we get these kids to stay in school? There should be programs to help them, right? These mothers that's on welfare. No, you're not just getting welfare. So they doing things like, I think the newest thing finna come out now, y'all will see it being talked about, is they finna start giving them EBT cards for child support. So you can't buy certain stuff. You only can buy certain stuff for the kids on these cards. That's what's finna be the new thing. When somebody pay child support, you ain't getting cigarettes. You right. You're not you're not getting
Mhm.
liquor. You're gonna be able to get some food. You're gonna be able to get some kid clothes, and it's gonna be a cap on what you can and cannot do. But so why we don't have a program to where kid mothers that's getting this public assistance, why they not made to volunteer so many hours per week at
Man,
the
I would
school?
love, I would love to have some mothers and fathers. I've had great parent volunteer work, but running the after school program, youth
No,
track
that's what I'm
program,
saying. Make them
like
do it. That's the only way
man,
you can get this public assistance, right?
It
it's
used
the
to
cheap,
be that way.
it's the
Huh?
cheapest babysitting on the planet. I promise you, this is the cheapest babysitting on the planet.
But if you make them volunteer, what I'm saying is that a lot of them probably don't want to be on it because the time I'm spending, I might well get a job.
Right.
Right, and then they get a better paying job, and then now they can take care of themselves. Now they mom, the kids see them doing something positive. Then all the way down to the fathers coming home with a good work ethic. Now, right, you need to hit it from all angles. We
Yeah.
so far gone. We need to hit from all angles, right? Like
It used to be that way. So, I mean, full transparency, back in 1993, I was on welfare because I was a teen mom and I was in high school. And in order for me to continue to get my $327 a month back then, was I had to take classes. And if I did not take certain classes, and for me it was classes because I was a teen. But if I was an adult, I would one of the requirements was like you have to be registered for like the Department of Labor, right? And be a
You had to
part of
go on so many job interviews. Yeah.
right. So that used to be a thing. Now, I mean, I was living in Arlington, Virginia at the time, so I don't know, how other states vary and
Cali
how
had it. Cali
very.
had it.
I think it's still like that.
Oh,
I think they
is it?
still, yep. I think you still have to like apply for so many jobs or spend so many hours a week applying for jobs or going to school or
Oh, I
doing
didn't know
something.
that.
So Rhonda,
Uh-huh.
let me tell you, here in California, I got partners that do it all the time, right? So I ain't gonna lie, they'll get on what's called GR, General Relief, I think they call it here.
Okay.
So you get on it, you get a couple of checks, and you have to go uh, fill out for so many jobs. And then every now and then they find some work for you to do. So you might have to report to this park and clean up. So whenever it was time for them to do a job, that was easy. They just go get some applications, some cards, say I filled out some work here. When it was time for them to report, they just quit. They just keep getting enough checks to where they just cut them off. And then they wait the little 3-month period and then they back on it again. So
Wow.
so
Damn.
somewhere you have to tighten up and like only way you get this is you're gonna do this. If not, you're gonna be banned for a year. Right? Like you can't make it too easy to make people too comfortable. I hope
Mhm.
that makes sense. But
The
Yeah,
sad part about it is they have money for assistance. They have money to give people these jobs, but half the people don't want to do right, and the other half the people who want to do right, they might not even have the opportunity to do right because they ain't got no transportation to
well,
get
we
there,
know they have the money,
clean
right?
clothes. Like it'd be some people in bad situations that really want to do right, and they just don't have the opportunity. And I look at it like when you do or when you are afforded the opportunity, even if it came from a bad situation like being in the penitentiary system or something, if you have an opportunity to do right, you should be afforded that opportunity and you shouldn't have no holdbacks because the way you got it. That's the most important thing.
Well, they have money for rehabilitation on all levels. I know for a fact they do because they found billions to Ukraine. They just found billions to or hundreds of millions to Israel, and then
oh,
they also gave Hamas some money. So,
They definitely have the money. They don't want to solve these problems because then they'd be out of a job.
yeah, so that's I guess that's when it comes back to we also have to start looking at like getting people in office, like we talked about on another show, getting people in office that put these programs in place, and then at some point too look to do for self.
Always
Mhm.
look to do for self. Always. That should be our first goal is to take care of home. Teach your kids how to farm. Teach your kids how to garden. Teach your kids about weapons, guns, knives. Teach your kids how to shoot, fire them, and maintain them. Teach your kids about credit and how it works. Teach your kids about finances. Teach your kids about government and how these states that they live in, the laws work for them and against them. You got to be a verse parent when you're raising a family and you're raising kids because like the last thing you want to do is set up a wealthy empire and then you lose it to your kids not knowing how to operate it.
So Trash, you saying instead of rehabilitation, let's come with a plan straight out the gate and make this thing right. Hey, you guys, y'all know we have problems, but we also have solutions, and we out.
Yes.
We got problems and we got solutions. Thank you for listening. To stay connected with us, like, share, and subscribe to the We Got Problems podcast. You can find us on social media platforms at Curtis Martin 247, at Rhonda Wrights Official, and at the_trash_vegan_.